Behind me here is my DR-Z4S, so you can see here that I've got the headlight shroud off. I'm going to describe some wiring projects that I've been working on. I'm kind of overdue on some of it, and then I'll also describe a few upgrades that I've done and changed with regards to how I charge camera batteries and whatnot. As you can see here, my DR-Z4S is sort of dismantled and in pieces, so I took the fuel tank off because I'm working on installing a IMS fuel tank. It's right down there. But first I decided I needed to do some electrical upgrades. So I've already done a few upgrades. I've added this USB port. I'm going to install some grip heaters probably after I replace the handlebars, because I would like to get bars that are just a little bit taller. Oh, let's see what else I've done. GPS wiring. So here's my GPS cradle. So all of that ties into this little device here that Cyclops Adventure Sports makes for the DR-Z4S, which taps into the accessory wiring port back here. But I want to have a higher power capability up here to run my grip heaters, and maybe down the road some auxiliary lights. That's definitely not a must-do. Auxiliary lights is just an idea I've had, but we're going to use the Tusk Accessory Power port. So I'm going to use that Tusk unit to power up my USB port, so I have higher power capabilities for charging camera batteries and whatnot through the USB port. So let's move over here and take a look at what we've got. I have two rolls of wiring here. This one's 16 gauge, this one is 18 gauge. Both of these are stranded copper wire. When you're looking to get wire for doing electrical projects like this, be sure that you get copper wire and not copper clad aluminum, also abbreviated CCA. I'll have links to the style wire that I use down in the description below. They're going to be Amazon affiliate links. I'll actually have Amazon affiliate links to most of this stuff here. This is a pair of crimpers and a little wire terminal kit that I use to install male and female bullet connectors. We've got the Tusk power unit. I've installed this on, let's see, my Ibex 450 and my old DR-Z. It's pretty much the most compact and least expensive option for adding fused power accessory plugs to a motorcycle. And it also gives you the ability to control things through the ignition or have them constant hot, because we have an ignition lead right there. I've also got a bag of small zip ties. And then here I also have a package of, I don't know what it's made out of, but it's sort of a plastic wire sheathing. It might be vinyl, it might be PVC, I'm not sure. This, I think, is 1/2 inch, and it's actually a little bit too big for the application. I should have gotten smaller, but for the purpose of this project and the fact that I've already got it, I'm just going to go ahead and use this stuff. So my goal is to mount the Tusk unit right here. It'll just be held in place right behind this little rubberized strap. I'll probably attach it back here with some zip ties. Then we're going to route the wiring along the factory wiring harness down here under the tank, and come up here, follow this wiring harness, and then go up there behind the headlight. First thing I've done is added my little connectors with my crimp tool, which works to crimp those little connectors onto the wire. I have that done on both of these. I don't have my third set prepped, but let's look over here at the bike. So right here in the battery box behind the side cover looks like a relatively good, easy place to mount this. So probably what I'll do is run a zip tie, because we have a area that wraps around behind where I can get a zip tie, and then there's another spot right here. So probably I'll put some double-sided foam back sticky tape between this area on the little holder that keeps the battery in place and the Tusk unit, and stick it down and then run a zip tie around this way. So my positive cable comes over here, loops up. I'm actually connecting it to the starter solenoid, so we have a direct connection from the starter solenoid over to the battery. The little battery post cover on the positive terminal, it's really kind of hard to manipulate wires and still have that cover giving any kind of protection. Plus this area is really tight, and you have this portion here that would face forward, and it's just kind of a nightmare to try to get cables directly on that. So that's why I opted to do direct to the starter solenoid. That's where I have my battery tender lead hooked up as well. Negative cable just kind of loops around, comes up here to the negative post on the battery terminal, and then my sleeving that's going to go around the wire, I'm just kind of routing this to get an idea of what length I'll need. So this looks like a good option here for routing the wire. We'll go up this direction right here, across, tie this to the wire harness. I'm going to tuck it behind this tie right there, and then follow the wire harness up all the way. So basically I wanted to route this so I know exactly what length I need in order to cut this, and then I'll fish my wires through it back towards the bike and then work my way forward, tying everything in place, and then we should be good to go with start making my connections up here. Taking a little bit of a closer look here at the wiring, you can see here I have a whole bunch of wiring bundled up. So when I installed the Tusk Accessory panel, originally I was going to use some PVC style sleeving for the wires, and that did not pan out very well, so I ended up using some of this nylon braided covering for the wires that go from behind the headlight down along the frame back to the battery box where the Tusk dash panel is. So I've changed things up here a few times. Initially I had a Suzuki 12-volt power port that plugged into the accessory port, which is down here. It's a little white connector that's buried. It's that right there. And what you see here is the dummy plug that keeps the mud and water out. So right now I have a Cyclops Adventure Sports splitter plugged in, so it comes with a plug that goes into the factory accessory plug plus this one, so you could actually plug something else in right here. But then it also comes with a splitter here, so you can plug in multiple accessories with your own wiring. So we have a positive here, and then the negative is right there. So tucked back up in here I have the little power brick for the GPS unit. It's my Garmin Zumo XT. And then over here is my grip heater wiring. So I've kind of had to jam everything back here, tie it down with some Velcro straps as best I could so that I can get the headlight shroud reinstalled. So now we'll talk about changes that I have made up at the dash panel area as I've upgraded and changed things over time. Right now I have the Tusk dash accessory panel with a standalone USB power port that has a voltmeter in it, and then also a switch here for my grip heaters. Originally I was running the Suzuki 12-volt power port, which is just that. It's only a 12-volt power port, like a cigarette style lighter plug, and it just has a small bracket that bolted up right here. So once Tusk came out with the dash panel, I decided it's time to do some more upgrades and go to this style of a USB power port that I found on Amazon. I'll have an affiliate link down in the description below. And if you do decide you want to do one of these with a voltmeter, I would highly recommend finding one with red LEDs. On my DR-Z400, I originally had one with blue LEDs, and the blue does not show up through that little smoked lens very well. It was very difficult to see, so the red shines pretty brightly through that and it's easy to see. So like I mentioned before, grip heater switch, I need to get a little rubber boot to protect that switch and make it a little more water resistant. And there is also another unit that you can do if you didn't want this big dash panel. It's a plug and play, goes right into the Suzuki dash, or plugs into the Suzuki accessory power port behind the headlight. It has a small bracket just like the Suzuki 12 volt port, and it's a completely plug and play unit, although it doesn't have a voltmeter, and it does have USB-A and USB-C on it, where this one that I added is just USB-A. So that's another option. I think it's about $40, and I'll have an Amazon affiliate link down in the description below for that as well. When I first got my DR-Z4S, I ordered this Suzuki Accessory Power port. It mounts to the handlebar clamps on the left side. It is completely plug and play. Part of the kit includes this little fuse holder that's built into the wiring harness. So this plugs into the factory accessory port behind the headlight. It mounts just like this. You take out the left 2 bolts for the handlebar clamps. The kit includes longer bolts right here and 2 little spacers. And this is just a simple DC power port. So what I was using to charge camera batteries or charge my cell phone is this little part right here. This is a relatively high output. It's power delivery on the USB-C side. It's 100 watt. And I think I initially ordered this to power Starlink in my RV. But we've got 2 USB-C ports and a USB-A, and then I would just plug that in there and then plug in whatever cables I needed to charge my camera batteries and whatnot. But then I decided eventually, once the Tusk dash panel came out, that I wanted to have more places to mount switches, meaning the switch for the grip heaters, plus a different style USB power port. So if this is something that you're interested in buying, I've got it for sale. I'll probably sell it for, I don't know, let's say $70 shipped to US addresses. New from the dealer, it was about $85 plus sales tax, I believe. So the other plug and play kit that I'll have linked down in the description below, which is a USB port, which I mentioned earlier, doesn't have a voltmeter in it. Its bracket looks identical to this. It's probably a carbon copy clone of this Suzuki bracket, but it's black instead of silver. This little guy, I'll have that link down in the description below, because this might be useful for your vehicle or whatnot too, if you're going to use just a USB port instead of this Suzuki 12 volt port. I'll point out a couple of things here that I didn't mention earlier, but here is my braided wire harness loom with the wires in it that I ran from the Tusk battery accessory power port back there by the battery. So I have my blue wire, which connects to the Cyclops. The blue wire is what triggers off of the ignition, so that any circuit that I wanted to have ignition powered, this is what will control that by setting the little dip switches in that Tusk unit. And then on my other wires here, for each accessory, I terminated them with some of these little bullet connectors that I showed at the very beginning of this video in that kit. And like I mentioned earlier, that kit, as well as the crimp tool, I'll have that linked down in the description below as an Amazon affiliate link. One of the things that I kind of wish I would have done, and I don't really know why I didn't, is I should have included a third set of wires in this wire loom. That way it would give me the option to install accessory lights later on without having to dismantle everything, take the tank off, and route another set of wires. And here I'm just using these little Velcro ties to tie everything back into place. So once I get this buttoned up here, I will transition back to the battery and pull that side panel off and show you how I have all of that finalized. So right here I did actually put a little zip tie through here, and I don't think that I put any foam adhesive tape down there like I mentioned I would do in the beginning of this video. Fuse for the Tusk unit right here. This is a fuse for my battery tender trickle charger lead, which exits right out this little slot. Then my main wiring harness goes over this direction, and you can see here I did not connect a third set of wires. So I just put a piece of heat shrink over this, heated it up, and then crimped it with a pair of pliers. And then where my wiring goes into that braided sleeve, to keep that braided sleeve from fraying, I wrapped it with a piece of electrical tape. And then the wire harness comes up here, goes behind this tie wrap. This is a factory zip tie wrap unit, and then follows the main wiring harness, and then gets routed along the main wiring harness up the tank along the frame. So that pretty much wraps up this project of installing the Tusk Accessory Power port unit, fuse block, and some of the various changes I've made to the bike over time with my wiring changes and upgrades and switching out power ports to USB ports and whatnot. So right here I have these labeled. So fuse number 1 is my grip heat, fuse number 2 is my USB. So like I mentioned before, all of the stuff that I used in this video plus other stuff I'll have linked down in the description below. It helps out if you want to order these to use those links, because it gives me a little bit of a kickback through Amazon, and then I generally take that affiliate income and apply it right back to buying more accessories for whichever bike I'm needing to buy accessories for. There's a lot of stuff that I get off Amazon, even stuff that Rocky Mountain sells. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.